In my previous video, I outlined how Walt Disney World's value resorts have the best kid-friendly theming and how they're the most frugal way to take advantage of the on-site benefits for vacationers planning to spend most of their time away from their hotel resort. But what if you do plan on spending more time relaxing at a resort with theming that isn't too kid-friendly? And if so, which resort should you choose? Hi, I'm the Frugal Brit, and for this video I'll be providing an idiot's guide to Walt Disney World's moderate resorts, and hopefully by the end of the video you'll be able to decide if any of these 5 resorts are right for your vacation. Before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on future guides, news, reviews and other Orlando vacation content. So if you've already watched my guide to Disney World's value resorts, you'll have seen that all on-site resorts fall within either the value, moderate or the deluxe categories. But for this video, we'll be focusing on the 5 moderate resorts, those being Disney's Coronado Springs Resort, the cabins at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort, Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort. Then you have the 2 resorts within Disney's Port Orleans, which are Port Orleans Riverside and Port Orleans French Quarter. So I'll be taking you on a brief tour of each resort in part 2 of the video, but beforehand I'll provide a very simple overview of what a moderate resort is and what to expect. Some of this section will be pretty obvious to many of you Disney World resort veterans, so feel free to skip to part 2 where we'll tour through each resort. So, guests staying at a moderate resort will enjoy all the same on-site benefits as the value resorts, such as extra magic hours, etc. I'll leave a link in the description in case you need a refresh on these. I'll also leave a link in the description with a guide to visiting Walt Disney World during the pandemic, as not all services are available and not all resorts are open. The moderate resorts are the mid-tier hotel option at Disney World. The value resorts are tailored to kid-friendly theming at a low price, and the deluxe resorts offer more in terms of luxury and convenience for huge additional cost. So in the middle we have the moderate resorts, suited best for young families and adults without kids. So compared to the other 2 categories, the moderates are some of the largest resorts at Disney World, with its buildings separated from one another, but there are a couple of exceptions here which we'll cover in part 2. Unlike most Disney World properties, you get more of a sense of peaceful isolation. But one of the downsides to this isolation is that unless you pay extra for a preferred room, then typically your standard room is likely to be quite a distance away from the main pool, lobby and dining areas, etc. Compared to the over-the-top kid-friendly theming at the value resorts, the theming at the moderates is much more subtle, with each of these resorts blending into the landscape more than at the values, making it easier to forget that you're in Walt Disney World. All moderate resorts offer bus transportation to and from the theme parks, but unlike the value resorts, the moderates have multiple bus stops throughout each resort, with the exception of Port Orleans French Quarter. So this means you won't have to walk too far to catch a bus. But the downside to this is that it does add to the travel time due to multiple stops. 3 of the moderate resorts also have either ferry service to Disney Springs or Skyliner transportation. The standard rooms at Disney's moderate resorts are 314 square feet by 260 feet and offer double queen beds or 1 king bed. This is an upgrade from the double beds you'll find at the value resorts. Whilst these only sleep 4 guests per room plus 1 baby in a crib, most moderate resorts sleep up to 5 guests. The pool areas at the moderate resorts are a noticeable upgrade compared to the value resorts and contain additional features like water slides and hot tubs. The pool theming is also more detailed and elaborate. Whilst being tailored more so for adults than kids, the moderate resorts do also feature arcade rooms, playgrounds and jogging trails. The dining options at the moderate resorts are a step up above the value resorts. Unlike the values, which will only provide quick service, all moderates have both a quick service restaurant and a table service restaurant. Again, Port Orleans will be an exception to this, as will be revealed shortly. So hopefully now you've got a basic idea of what a moderate resort is. I'll now take you on a brief tour of each of these resorts in no particular order. We'll start with Disney's Coronado Springs Resort, which opened in 1997 and is located over in the Animal Kingdom resort area. Its theme is colonial Spanish and southwestern America, and each of its 3 sections, which are the casitas, ranchos and cabanas, have their own Spanish architectural flair, which incorporates bright colours, interesting signs and stucco exteriors. This resort is particularly unique in that it features its own convention center. In 2019, the Coronado Springs was expanded to include the Gran Destino Hotel, which is a 15-story tower, taking its name and thematic cues from the Salvador Dali collaboration short film known as Destino, which added 545 guest rooms, including 50 suites, and features a rooftop restaurant named Toledo, as well as the Dahlia Lounge. Coronado Springs features the lost city of Cibola Pool built around a splendid 50-foot Mayan pyramid replica, and a 22-person hot tub, which is the largest of its kind in Walt Disney World. The rooms at Coronado Springs are amongst the nicest of all the moderates as they utilise space very well. They're modern and have a variety of substantive enhancements not found at other resorts. This resort is often referred to as a mod deluxe because of its rooms, its variety of dining options, and because it offers a few amenities that the other moderates don't provide. This includes the La Vida Health Club with its full-service spa, salon, and 24-hour gym. When compared to the other moderate resorts, many will say that it has stronger amenities, impressive architecture, but it is usually more expensive than the others, and some guests don't appreciate the convention centre clientele atmosphere. Unless you plan to use the extra amenities, it can be more difficult to justify the extra price. When it comes to Destino Tower specifically, this Vegas-style hotel is a bit of an eyesore and does harm the theming, but this obviously isn't an issue for guests staying within the tower, which arguably deserves its own separate entry in my tours. It's a great hotel in terms of having nearly everything under one roof, hence its popularity with business guests, and it is competitively priced given how comparable it is to the deluxe resorts. However, whilst it is a stunning hotel, it lacks a distinct theme, which many Disney World guests, of course, will value very highly. Lastly, the resort as a whole is unfortunately not located near any of the theme parks, and guests only have access to the bus transportation. Now for something completely different, we'll head over to the cabins at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground, which is a 750-acre camping resort located in the Magic Kingdom resort area, which was opened a month after Walt Disney World opened in 1971. Fort Wilderness feels sort of off the grid and isolated away from the rest of Walt Disney World in a nice way, and has a natural, rustic theme that aims to evoke the beauty of the American frontier, featuring scenic woodland trails, multiple pool areas, and a wealth of outdoor recreational activities including fishing, archery classes, and boating. The layout of the resort makes you feel separated from other guests, so it's a nice retreat after a day at the park. Following the overhaul, its cabins feature a full kitchen with plates and utensils, etc., a living room with a large modern TV that doubles as a bedroom, and a separate bedroom with queen bed and bunk beds. They sleep up to 5 to 6 people depending on your comfort tolerance. Fort Wilderness contains the Meadow swimming pool with corkscrew water slide and whirlpool spa, and guests staying outside of the pandemic can enjoy the previously long-running Hoop-de-Doo musical review, one of the most popular shows at Disney World. Guests benefit from its marina transportation, which can take you over to Magic Kingdom and other Bay Lake resorts. For many, this form of transportation is considered an attraction in its own right. Fort Wilderness contains the Trails End all-you-can-eat buffet restaurant, one of the best buffets at Disney World. The main downside to Fort Wilderness cabins is that its transportation can be frustrating, with its 3 internal bus routes that deliver guests to the front and back of the resort. It's acceptably efficient, but does add quite a bit of travel time onto your vacation, but this is the trade-off for the peaceful isolation that guests enjoy here. Plus, you do have the option of renting a golf cart, which I would strongly recommend. Very difficult to compare to the other moderate resorts. It is a stark contrast and kind of only really exists in this category because there isn't anywhere else to put it. Its cabins are comparable maybe to a 1-bedroom suite at other resorts. It doesn't feel like you're staying at Disney World or even Central Florida for that matter, and that can be a good thing depending on what you're looking for. Next, we have Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort, which opened all the way back in 1988. located in the Epcot Resort area, occupying 200 acres including the 45-acre lake known as Barefoot Bay. This resort is themed to resemble the colourful yet relaxing atmosphere of the Caribbean islands. Each of its themed villages is a different colour, making the vistas around the Barefoot Bay especially beautiful. These villages are named after Caribbean islands and each contain their own quiet pool and bus stop. The resort's main feature pool is themed as an old Spanish fort, complete with slides, waterfalls and water cannons. In the centre of the Barefoot Bay Lake, you'll find Caribbean Cay, which is an island with a lush picnic and play area, which also breaks up the walk across the lake. Whilst lacking some of the amenities of Coronado Springs, Caribbean Beach is arguably the prettiest resort in its tier and can often be booked for cheaper. It's also debatably the quietest resort. One of the weaknesses of Caribbean Beach in the past has always been its long walks to the lobby area and transportation issues with it being reliant on its shuttle buses with multiple stops which add to your travel time. I've had some pretty bad experiences with this in the past. However, following its reimagining, Disney has addressed several of its weaknesses, including transportation, most famously with the introduction of the Skyliner gondola transportation. So Caribbean Beach is the hub for the Skyliner, with its 2 stations around the resort offering access to Disney's Hollywood Studios and Epcot, resulting in Caribbean Beach being a much more popular resort with Disney World vacationers. The dining options at this resort are also above par, in particular Sebastian's Bistro. It's been several years since the rooms got a refresh at the Caribbean Beach. For example, there's no storage under the beds like some of the more recently refurbished rooms in Disney World, but they do still feel fairly modern. The pirate rooms are more expensive and furthest away from the main lobby, but they're closer to the Skyliner station. One debatable negative is that the Riviera Resort was added to Barefoot Bay in 2019, which is thematically at odds with Caribbean Beach, and this could also be said with the way in which the Skyliner towers have been installed over guest buildings, which does kind of affect the peaceful tropical charm. However, one advantage of the Riviera is that guests can take advantage of the amenities over there, but no pool hopping. Overall, Caribbean Beach has become possibly the most modern of the moderates following its reimagining, which has been handled extremely well. If we're excluding the cabins at Fort Wilderness, it is the only moderate resort that offers non-bus transportation to Walt Disney World's theme parks, which is a huge advantage. Heading over now to Disney's Portal Inns in the Disney Springs Resort area, which contains 2 resorts within 10 minutes walking distance of each other, and both situated on the banks of the Sassagoula River. I'll start with Port Orleans French Quarter, which is the smaller of the 2 Port Orleans resorts and is themed with a New Orleans antebellum era theme with its jazz and Mardi Gras influences, providing a romanticised New Orleans that exists in people's hearts and minds. It consists of 7 3-story guest room buildings next to the river. French Quarter really excels with its beautifully detailed buildings, with famous New Orleanian colours and wrought iron railing and brick-lined streets. The landscaping is gorgeous with huge magnolia trees and intimate beautiful fountains. The resort's pool is Mardi Gras themed with a giant sea serpent slide. This is more tailored for children compared to most of the other moderates, so those with young families may prefer this resort. Those that prefer a more compact resort will really appreciate Port Orleans French Quarter. It's a short walk from every section of the resort to get to the hotel lobby. French Quarter only loses out to Destino Tower in terms of its compactness. Whilst there is no Skyliner at this resort, transportation is more convenient with only 1 bus stop, which doesn't generate queues as big as some of the other moderates. However, worth mentioning that during off-season times, the buses will sometimes be shared with its sister resort, which has multiple stops. One of the signature features of both Port Orleans resorts is the water taxi that'll take you over to Disney Springs. There's no real surprises with the rooms, which were last remodeled in 2018 but still look good. Those that prefer a classier style to a more modern style will appreciate French Quarter, and the Mickey Mardi Gras beads are a nice touch. The main weakness of Port Orleans French Quarter is with its dining options. Its Sassagoula Floatworks food court is good, but lacks healthy choices, and there isn't a table service restaurant here anymore, so there is a void in that regard, especially given the theme of the resort. However, guests of course do have the option to walk over to Port Orleans Riverside for table service dining, or use the water taxi to Disney Springs. last resort in my tour is Disney's Port Orleans Riverside, to the north of French Quarter up the Sassagoula River, which opened in 1992, originally as Disney's Dixie Landings Resort before it merged with its sister resort. Port Orleans Riverside is themed to resemble the old South Mississippi River communities in antebellum Louisiana. This gigantic resort has 2,048 rooms, which are divided between the rustic Alligator Bayou section, with its tin-roofed rustic imitation wooden buildings, and the mansion area, which features plantation-style architecture. At the heart of Port Orleans Riverside lies the 3.5-acre Old Man Island. This secluded and lushly wooded island is easily accessed from the various accommodation buildings via the 3 wooden bridges, and is home to many of the resort's recreational activities, including the main feature swimming pool with water slide. You also have 5 other quiet pools around the resort. As with French Quarter, guests at Port Orleans get to enjoy the relaxing boat ride on the Sassagoula River over to Disney Springs, but for the theme parks you are limited to bus transportation. Port Orleans Riverside excels with its rooms, which have received a soft refresh in recent years. The standard rooms over in the Alligator Bayou have had their carpets replaced by hardwood flooring, its rustic woodwork replaced, larger television, an elevated bed, etc. No major difference to the other moderates, but the theming is well executed. You have both table service and quick service options. The exceptionally themed Riverside Mill food court, with its diverse menu, houses a working cotton press powered by a 32-foot water wheel, possibly the most photographed building at any of the resorts. Then you have Boatwright's Dining Hall, which is the full-service restaurant which exceeds expectations for a non-signature dining location in both food and service. When comparing to the other resorts, I really like the Old Man Island pool, but I think it's fair to say the theming here is a little bland compared to the main pools at most of the other moderates, so there may be better choices if this is one of your priorities. But elsewhere, it has arguably the strongest theming, and I would say the most interesting and immersive backstory. Its grounds are stunning, with rich wilderness in the bayou and perfectly manicured gardens around the mansions. The best resort for romantic strolls. In summary, the moderate resorts are an excellent choice for anybody looking for a pretty resort and with theming that can sometimes rival the outrageously expensive deluxe resorts. For many, they are the perfect combination of affordability, amenities, and ambience. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you have an awesome vacation whenever that is. Do check out my other videos if you're headed to Disney World anytime soon, and if you're interested in future Orlando vacation content, don't forget to subscribe.